over and over again. And someone in the government decided that enough is enough. And enough courage or enough compassion, or I don't know what is the right word, to do this one thing with Mu'tasim. Sadly, we are still not seeing it with others. And I will tell you another secret that I'm not sure anyone knows. The reason I didn't approach courts, because I approached courts many times, but regarding his detention in Cholot, but I never went to the court and said, he's a refugee, he should be recognized as a refugee. And I threatened to do it, I told it I'm going to do it, but I never did it. I expected the government to act. And the secret is that the reason that I didn't go to the courts is not because I wanted, which I think is right, to give the state the opportunity to do it from the inside and not by judicial decisions that will force them. Because they didn't have hope in the courts that they will do something. And this is one of the sad proofs. The reason I went to the government is that I had more faith in the government at this point than in the courts and the justice system in Israel. And I think that the history proves it. 6 times we went to the courts and no one released him for holiday. Usually the general attorney released him, not the court. And you know, in the second hearing in the Supreme Court, Judge Fogelman, which is a very, let's say, considered liberal, and he wrote the main decisions regarding the constitutionality of the anti-infiltration law, saying beautiful words about the people from Eritrea and Sudan that they are, if not refugees, then at least people that many of them need international protection, and looking at the standards and saying that we are down below the minimum standards of the international community regarding treatment of asylum seekers in many cases. And he said in the hearing of Mu'tasim, the second hearing, that he's not deaf to the story. But the decision was to dismiss the case and send us again to the district court. So I don't need their ears and their eyes, I need their mouth and their hand, the writing hand. And this we didn't get enough.
A few more questions, you okay? So with this, I know, like, I'm gonna use this example, of African Americans in the U.S. We, 50 years ago, maybe in the 40s and 50s, we used the court system to get our rights. Board of Education and so on and so forth. So we relied a lot on the court system. It helped us greatly. And as you just mentioned, that the court system here is not the avenue, is not the vehicle. It's been so far pretty much unsuccessful. What can the refugees do?
So, I'm not an expert in American history, but the courts couldn't have done it by themselves. There was a very strong civil movement of Martin Luther King and others that pushed the public opinion to a better place. And there was also the president who ordered the National Guard to step in and make sure that what the court decided will be enforced. I mean, imagine yourself, the court is deciding, and then the president say what to do. This didn't happen, but I'm afraid that in Israel, which is much younger a state and democracy than the states, and the checks and balances we have between the authorities are much more sensitive and blurred and unclear. I'm not sure that if the court would give a decision as significant as Brown v. Board of Education, for instance, it will happen. I mean, it's a question, because the court cancelled, struck down completely the Third Amendment to the anti-infiltration law, and what we got is the Fourth Amendment, which is even worse. So, and then on the second case, the court okay, we got it. And the court said you must release everyone immediately. But the Minister of Interior didn't release anyone, and the court didn't do anything. So, it's different. It's a different system than the States. It's very difficult to compare. But what I would say is the courts did help to some extent in some issues, but for sure not enough and not as they should have done, in my eyes. So what can be done? It's probably the most important question one can ask himself and his friends to this struggle. How can we make the place we're living in better? In a world that seems to collapse and become even worse. we have this, you have a president that the truth is not part of his tools even. We have a prime minister which is pretty much the same. People don't seem to care so much about truth, about facts. And I say, you know what? It's okay that you have an opinion that you should send people to their death. It's against morality, values I believe in, Jewish history, Christian history, international law, but if this is your opinion, I cannot take it away from you. So in this regard, it's legit, in this specific regard. But it is not legit that you will claim that everything is fine in Eritrea and everything is fine in Sudan without any factual knowledge or care to know. This is the difference between opinions and facts and reality that seems to kind of disappear or lose its power in our time. So one of the things that are, in my eyes, vital is that people will know the truth. You must feed them the truth by any means. The Facebook, the social networks, the movies and books and articles in newspapers. People must know the truth. Later, if they choose, based on this truth, to get to a different conclusion than mine, okay, but they cannot ignore the facts, the truth, the situation. Like in Israel, people are saying that there are 200,000 asylum seekers. Based on what? The Minister of Interior said we have 40,000 people. How can you say and then they say this is my fault. And you cannot fight it because it's an opinion, but it's actually not an opinion, it's a fact. It's a question of fact. Or the Justice Minister, Ayelet Shaked. She keeps saying for a long time that all of the people in Israel, all of them are not refugees because they crossed Egypt. And once they moved from Eritrea or Sudan through Egypt, they lost their right as a refugee, or to be the rights under the Refugee Convention. Now, this is not a mistake. This is not an interpretation of the Refugee Convention. This is a lie. Okay? Simple and clear. The Refugee Convention, and you can all check me, doesn't state that anyone who's crossing more than one border is not a refugee. It doesn't make sense. Otherwise, you don't have refugees in Canada and the States unless they come from Mexico. This is not the situation. And on the other hand, if this is the case, why Israel is not accepting Syrians in large numbers? They are also not refugees. So, but she kept telling this lie over and over again. And I'm saying a lie, not a mistake, because people can make mistakes. We are all humans and so on. She's not an expert in this field. But once she makes this comment, and I correct her, and I suggest her to go to the Refugee Convention and check it by herself, and she keeps repeating this so-called mistake, it becomes a lie. And people are buying it. And now, when you are, I give lectures and when I appear in media, in TV and so on, and I say this is not true. The Refugee Convention is very clear. And then people say, but the Justice Minister said. I say she is wrong, she is lying, whatever, but how can you, unless you're going to the internet and open the Refugee Convention, check it, which few people are doing, you have the Justice Minister or the lawyer Asaf, and you prefer to believe to whoever suits your purpose more. So we have to fight this, we have to target this, and we have to get the facts, both the legal facts and the real facts, to people. And people must know each other and understand that cosmopolitan society, a society in which people can react and taste different food and meet different people from different cultures, is an enriching experience, and not a degrading or threatening one that takes somehow the purity of, the community. And it's a long process. I think the struggles in America are still lasting and now even increasing, and this is probably the case in Israel. I mean, people here were terrified about Trump, the statements he made before and even after he became a president. And I told them, what are you talking about? Are we better in any way? And people that can say that Sudanese Eritreans are not refugees can say that Trump is doing horrible things. So this is also something we should check ourselves all the time regarding this. So feeding people with the truth sharing the stories, the knowledge, the personal experience. You know, people that I work in the kitchen or in a restaurant. Santa Catarina, it's a restaurant in Albi. And I worked with Eritreans. And you know, there is something in this connection. They help me understand where, because I'm really a beginner, where should I put my I don't know, pots and glasses and plates. And there is this interaction which is above all human. And this interaction is not happening enough between societies.
Well said. Good, Dan?
This is great.